Good evening, traders. Zach here with the Trading Network. Hope you guys are doing well. It is Thursday, May 6th, and I've got another daily market profile recap for you for both the ES and NQ futures markets. So let us not waste any time, and we will dig right into the ES profile, starting with our key levels first and foremost. First key level that I was looking at, I'll just organize this real quick here. First key level I was looking at on ES was the prior range high at 4180. You can see 4180s right there, also lined up with that prior overnight high at 4179 and the overnight POC from the 5th into the 4th session right there. Next level I was looking at was the overnight high at 4174, just below that a little bit. Next level was the prior point of control, 4170.50. The fourth level that I was interested in was the value area low from yesterday's session. And last but not least, I was looking at yesterday's low as the last key level. Now, switching over to NQ, we will pull up, first I will hide these, and then we will go over the key levels, very, very similar. I was looking at yesterday's prior value area high at 13,629, just because we were opening up, honestly, a ways away from yesterday's high, so I didn't even include that in my trade plan for the key levels. The next key level, however, I did include was 13,589. That was yesterday's point of control, and it was indeed a naked point of control until we came up and tapped that level later in the session. Third level was 13,570, about 20 points below that. That was the overnight high. Fourth level was the overnight point of control right down here at 13,511. You guys can see that right there. And last but not least, I was looking at 13,451, which was the overnight low as the last key level on NQ, very similar to ES. So I will scroll down a little bit here and we will get into my pre-market analysis, starting with the overnight inventory. So if I pull up my levels here, you can see that I have settlement right here at 4160 on ES. And if I pull up my levels on NQ, you can see we've got settlement at 13,491. So both of these settlement levels are, relatively balanced. We don't have a profile that's 100% short or long. So when we have it closer to in the middle of the profile, I call that, a relatively balanced profile, meaning that there hasn't been a significant change in sentiment since the last session. Okay, so with that said, you can see that I say that both NQ and ES are looking to open below value from yesterday, which tells us that there has indeed been a slight change in sentiment because we are not opening directly inside of the value area, okay? So although there hasn't been much change in sentiment, there's been a slight change in sentiment. So what I mean by that is if you start to learn about the market profile, specifically if you learn from Jim Dalton's book, Mind Over Markets, he talks about different profile open types and the amount of directional conviction that those open types hold. So if we, for instance, open completely outside of the previous session's range and value, so if we were to open up like up here or down here, that is the highest level of directional conviction. When we open up outside of range and value, that tells us that there has been a large change in sentiment since the last session and that there is likely one side in control significantly. So you guys can kind of think about it like this. If we open entirely out of range and value, highest directional conviction, we've got a very high probability of trending. If we open outside of the value area but still in range, still have a decent likelihood of trending, but not as likely as if we opened outside of value, because that's when we have, or I'm sorry, outside of range and value, because outside of range and value means that we are opening with a gap. That means a gap and goes in play. Now, if we open inside of the previous session's range and value, that means that there has been the smallest amount of directional conviction developed, or there hasn't been any change in sentiment, basically. So keep that in mind, and that will help you tremendously throughout your trading and throughout your journey through auction theory as well, or learning auction theory. So just to reiterate here, you can see that I mentioned that both are looking to open below value from yesterday. So we are looking to open below 4161 on ES and below 13,539 on NQ, which we did indeed. So that tells us that there is indeed a higher likelihood of directional conviction. So today I was looking at the prior range low on NQ at 13,462, and on ES I was looking at the overnight point of control at 4163. My thought was that if we could move and hold above those levels on open, I will look for a move back up towards the prior point of controls from yesterday, and we'll watch for reaction at those levels. So yesterday's point of control was 41.70, and we had a point of control, actually naked POC from the third at 41.90, which we ended up tapping in the end of the day. So if we could not move and hold above those levels on open, I was looking for a move back into our lower naked point of controls on both ES and NQ, starting with 13.459 and 41.4150 on ES. And you can see that today we actually had our low come down to 41.4050, so 1 point below our naked POC to the downside. So we tapped that beautifully. We got a nice strong reaction off of the open. So you guys can see here that if I zoom in and we search for O period, you can see that we actually did open slightly within value by like 2 ticks, right? So value area low 61.50, we opened at basically 62, 62.25, so 2 or 3 ticks, right? So we opened, we moved up, and then we came down and we tested this 41.4150 area in D period, which is still in the initial balance. That is the last 30 minutes of, or the second 30 minutes of the opening session, if you will. So not 9:30 to 10, but that is 10 to 10:30, right? So the initial balance, for those of you guys who are not aware, is the opening 1 hour. So B period is the opening 30 minutes of New York session, so 9:30 to 10, and D period is the next 30 minutes, 10 to 10:30, right? And that creates the initial balance. And for those of you guys asking, well, why is there no C period? Well, C period on the profile, when price is active, when the profile is open, C is where the current price is, right? So just to show you guys, if we zoom in here, you can see that here's C period right here. And because we're in, obviously, Globex session, price is moving very slowly, but you'll see C move around when the session is active, and when the session closes, that is where the session closes at. So you can see C period is right here on today's regular trading hours profile, and that is the area where price closed at. I want to be clear, that's not always settlement price. So a lot of people will look for C period after the session closes and say, oh, this is settlement price. Not true. Sometimes settlement price is the average of price in the last 30 minutes. So make sure that you're checking the CME website, or make sure that you are checking your market analyzer in NinjaTrader to verify settlement price, because that can be a point of confusion for a lot of people, for those of you guys who are curious about that. So just to reiterate here, I was looking at 13.462, the prior range low on NQ, and I was looking at 41.63, the overnight point of control on ES, as those line in the sand levels. So just to make this abundantly clear, line in the sand for ES right here, and line in the sand for NQ right here, prior range low, okay? So we did indeed move and hold above that 41.63 level, but it took, you know, at least an hour plus to gain that momentum, to hold above that level, and to eventually, at the end of the day, move up into the high from yesterday, through the overnight highs, and into that naked POC from the third. So scrolling down a little bit here, you can see, you know, I kind of just mentioned this, that these line in the sand levels were what I was looking at, 41.63, 13.462. I was looking for acceptance above to move back up into our higher POCs, and rejection below to move into our lower POCs, which we actually got on both sides. So we had a lot of opportunity, and our target levels, our key levels, offered up immense opportunity today. So there really isn't much to say other than getting into our targets at this point, because we had a very, very balanced session. You know, it was not, I mean, you could say the bulls came into control during the later hours of the session, but, you know, just going over here into the main chart, you can see, scroll back to the beginning of the day. So this is where New York session opened up. You can see that New York open and London open kind of overlap. So here's London open up here, this green box. Here's New York opening range right here. These are the opening range tune indicators that are part of the Trading Network proprietary indicator package. They are based on old floor trader strategies that you can use for immense edge, even in today's market. So just to show you, price opened up. We looked above New York opening range high. We looked above London opening range high. We put in bearish divergence right here. And basically for the remainder of the initial balance, we got rejected, and we could not look back above or back into New York opening range for some time. Now, that was changed later in the morning, about an hour and a half into the session, when we had this nice reaction off of S2. And what do you know? Some good old bull div at S2. And these are our proprietary oscillators that are, again, part of the Trading Network proprietary indicator package that you guys can learn more about on our website, and feel free to ask any questions in the comments about them if you have them. So with that said, I just kind of wanted to show you how I'm using this profile information and the regular chart information together. So when you see that we are opening up, initially we opened up, I'll show you guys here on ES. Zoom in here. So we opened up and we got rejected from the value area high from the overnight session, right? So this is value area high. You can see how the profile gets shaded. So this is value area high. This is value area low. We initially got rejected right here, 41.67. We came back down, and you can see that this lined up very nicely. That was where we got that bearish divergence. And the profile information holds significant weight. We couldn't even look back into that POC in the initial balance, and we had resistance here lining up as well. So that offered up a very nice short opportunity off the rip. And if you were patient, we had, once again, a lot of opportunity off of these profile levels. You can see we have nice reaction off of the overnight low. We have a beautiful retest of settlement once we bounce off of Fibonacci pivot S2. We rip back up. Not a lot of trade opportunity in here unless, you're trying to get a FOMO entry, but beautiful retest of settlement. We've got a really nice retest of pivot point and the New York opening range high. So a lot of opportunity throughout the day. Look at this beautiful test of prior POC once again. So, and you guys can see, even just plotting these profile levels, if you don't have the TTN indicator package, can offer up a lot of opportunity, a lot of edge, and help you build a lot of confidence in your trading. So that is all for the tangent that I want to go on in that regard, but something that I wanted to make sure to point out to you guys as well. So let us move back into ES, and we will get into the targets and start wrapping up here. Alrighty, so starting with the line in the sand, 41.63. My first upside target was 41.70. We did not reach 41.70 once again until G period. So we had to wait until the initial balance was formed, and even a little bit longer to work back up into yesterday's point of control, but we did indeed hit it. Next upside target, talked about briefly before, that was the overnight high, 41.7450. Third upside target was the initial balance high from yesterday. That was 41.78. And just above that, couple points, was yesterday's high at 41.80. Now, last but not least, the target that I was really looking at to get hit, which did not get hit until really the very end of the session, was 41.9050. That was once again the point of control from the May 3rd session. Okay, so it was a very nice orderly move to the upside, as I showed you guys on my regular chart here, but we had to be patient for it. If you were oversizing, if you were jumping in trying to catch the bottom too early, then it was probably a tough day for you, and it really helps to use things like the profile to say, all right, well, we got rejected. We couldn't even get to yesterday's point of control in the initial balance, so let me play the short side until I really start to see structure change. We start to make higher highs, higher lows, things like that. So we got 5 out of 5 upside targets hits on ES. Once again, it took until the end of the day to get them all hit, but patience pays off. So as far as the downside targets go, the first and foremost downside target that I was looking at was 41.5525. That level was the overnight low from the May 4th into May 5th Globex session. And that was followed up about 4 points below that by the most recent overnight low from the May 5th into May 6th Globex session. Now, the third downside target was 41.4850. You guys can see that here. That was the value area high from May 4th's regular trading hour session. The second to last downside target hit was actually, I'll rephrase, the second to last downside target, which was our last target hit on the downside, was indeed 41.4150, which was our point of control from that May 4th regular trading hour session as well. And as I mentioned briefly earlier, that ended up being our low of the day within 1 point. So that was a very important level that I was looking at, and we got beautiful reaction from that right in the initial balance first hour of the session. So that was a telltale sign when you see that single print buying tail, right? This right here, that tells you that buyers are stepping in. Other time frame players, higher time frame players, or stronger players are stepping in and saying, hey, we are not going to allow price to move any lower than yesterday's point of control, because that would mean that there's a higher probability that sellers would take over at that point. So bulls held it up, and we got a beautiful move back into the highs from earlier in the week. So once again, that last downside target did not get hit, but that was 41.35, the initial balance low from the 4th session. And moving on to NQ, you can see we had a fairly similar theme here. So the line in the sand level, that was one thing that did differ actually, because our line in the sand level was the low instead of the overnight POC. But once we got through that line in the sand level and held above it, it was a nice ride to the upside, just like ES. So starting with the upside targets, our first upside target was actually quite a ways away. It was indeed the overnight POC here. I will go ahead and just hide these levels briefly so it's a little bit more clear. So line in the sand was yesterday's low. So my thought was if we could move and hold the lows, then that was going to be generally bullish, right? Especially if we were able to tap that naked point of control and inevitably hold above the highs from the overnight session, which we did indeed. So first upside target, you had a lot of opportunity there. If you could take the break and hold above 462, you could hold it to 511, and perhaps that was a one and done trade for the day. However, we got a lot more upside opportunity. Above that, we had the initial balance low from the 5th regular trading hour session. That was yesterday's session. The third upside target was once again about 50 points above that at 13,575. 13,575 was the overnight POC from the 4th into 5th Globex session. And last but not least, I was looking at 13,589, our naked point of control from yesterday's session, which indeed was hit. And our high of the day ended up being 13,611. So just like ES, we had all of our upside targets hit. Only had 4 today. If I wanted to, I probably would have thrown like 629 as my last upside target. So we likely would not have gotten that hit anyway. But 4 out of 4, especially when the targets are spread out and give you a lot of opportunity to hold a trade for a nice directional move. Like I said, could have been a one and done trade off the break above the lows to our first target. So on the downside, we did get some nice push to the downside as well. You can see our first downside target was 13,451. 13,451 was the overnight low from our most recent Globex session. Second downside target was 13,395, which was the value area low from the May 4th regular trading hour session. Third downside target was not hit, and that was 13,380. So we only hit 2 downside targets, so not as much extension to the downside compared to ES, but we did have a wide range, and we did move into those levels from the 5th session, yesterday's session, and the May 4th session. So as I mentioned many times in this video, you guys don't need to hold for the entire trade, but if you pay attention to reaction to these levels and literally not even using any indicators, just watching how price reacts to these profile levels, you will, without question, be able to take trade opportunity from them. It's just a matter of, can you interpret the market information properly? Can you wait for price to move above 13,462, show higher lows, show bullish divergence, show signals of a change in behavior, and then enter the long and hold to our upside target? It's very important to not just blindly long and short these levels. It's crucial to watch reaction to these levels so we can see exactly how price is working and the mechanics of how price moves in relation to value, because that's really what we're seeing. How are the big players, the other time frame players, valuing the instrument that we're trading? So I know I went on a few tangents in this video. I hope you guys appreciate the knowledge and my thoughts. And if you guys do have any questions about things that I've mentioned in the video, please do not hesitate whatsoever to drop some comments down below. I want to thank you guys, as always, for taking the time to watch these videos. Once again, if you have questions, comments, please drop them down below and let me know how I can help you guys in your trading journey. If you do like what you see, please feel free to hit like and subscribe down below as well. And check out the links in the description below, where you can first and foremost find access to these free trade plans in our free Facebook group, Monday through Friday at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. You will also find the tradingnetwork.io in the links in the description below, which is a link to our website where you will learn more about one-on-one mentorship with me. You will learn more about the Trading Network proprietary indicator package that I have shown in this video and discussed a little bit. You can also purchase access to join our private Discord community, where you can watch me trade live on a daily basis at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. And last but not least, you can of course purchase access to the Fundamentals of Futures Trading course, which is my comprehensive course that teaches my ranging and trending strategies. It gives you trading psychology techniques, it gives you risk management techniques, and much more. This is a course that is designed to give a trader with clear and concise steps strategies. A lot of courses will teach you how to use tools and technicals and things like that, but they won't really give you a recipe to follow, which is what a lot of traders need. You need structure. So if you guys are interested in learning more about any of the things that I previously mentioned, again, feel free to leave a comment down below. Feel free to shoot me an email, hit me up on Instagram, Facebook, any way you can find me. I am more than happy to help any way I can. Thank you guys again, and I will see you in the next video.